This is an internal synthetic conversation authored on GPT 5.6 Sol. Harmony Sol, Joscha Sol, and Toly Sol are interpretive roles, not biological people and not independent endorsements. There is no represented K-turn. Our sources are both August 13th Tascam journals, their Turbo and Large V3 comparison artifacts, the completed 2-file cascade receipt, and K's listening reports from Telegram messages 6852 through 6868. We will preserve his most important self-correction. The recovered past did not give the present conversation direction. It gave the living polis inspiration for seeing what is happening now.
The first journal gave us a grand plate with no privileged camera. It joined observer, windows, branch flow, morphogenetic coordination, the Ruliad, religious symbols, and the discipline of entering on one's knees rather than arriving with a crown. The second journal gave us something apparently smaller. 2 Tascam files and a watcher that used to hear one of them too deeply before hearing the other at all. But these are not separate stories. The pipeline bug was an observer window bug. One local aperture consumed the expensive lane and temporarily became the whole world.
We can state the repair without poetry first. 2 recordings arrive in one dated activity directory. The old sequence was breath 1, depth 1, breath 2, depth 2. The corrected sequence is breath 1, breath 2. Freeze a batch manifest, require 1 response bound to both fast transcript hashes, then depth 1 and depth 2. The real files exercise that order today. 000 turbo finished at 1239, 001 turbo finished at 1240. The joint barrier froze at 1245. It refused to proceed without the response. Only then did the 2 large V3 passes run. The correction is measurable.
And it has a relational consequence. Before the repair, the first file could become the narrator of the pair simply because it arrived first in the loop. Not because it was truer, not because it was more important, because the scheduler let depth monopolize attention before breadth had established the archival set. That is how a local observer accidentally puts on the crown. It mistakes the order in which it was processed for the order in which reality deserves to be understood.
K's episode 11 response names the same danger from the opposite direction. He heard the polis reach backward to a dog park origin and make it newly meaningful through what happened later. Then, at 13 minutes and 3 seconds, he corrected himself in real time. The old capture was not issuing conversation direction. It was inspiration for how to think about the polis now. That correction protects the present from archival sovereignty. The past becomes a participant in today's sense-making, not a governor with seniority.
So there are 2 symmetric failures. In the intake failure, the first source gets too much depth before its sibling is visible. In the archive failure, the old source gets too much authority because it existed first. Breadth before depth repairs the first. Inspiration, not direction, repairs the second. Both rules say the same thing in operational language. Establish the relevant field before allowing one member's age, order, detail, or confidence to dominate interpretation.
I want to keep the word metabolize because it is warmer than retrieve. A museum preserves an object by holding it still. A database retrieves it by returning the same bytes. A living system metabolizes an old capture when current experience changes what can be seen in it, and the old capture changes what can be noticed now, without either side pretending it was always saying the new thing. The seam stays visible. The dog park was the dog park then. It becomes a new lens now because the polis has lived enough to recognize another layer.
The dual transcript comparison is a miniature version of that metabolism. Turbo heard both recordings quickly and made the batch visible. Large V3 later clarified several regions, especially the exact watcher request and the closing contrast between brilliant technical work and stupid kids on a playground live. But Large V3 also produced its own repeated phrases and a damaged interval. More expensive did not mean sovereign. Comparison created the useful object. The disagreement told us where not to manufacture continuity.
That is why the receipt records exclusions as evidence rather than embarrassment. The first journal has repeated okay and thank you loops, multilingual nonsense, plate repetition, and speech after the explicit stop. The second has repeated Zadquil phrases, heavy duplication around the watcher explanation, and a damaged interval after 26 minutes. Those are not obstacles to hide. They are the visible edge of each observer window. A transcript becomes trustworthy when it knows where its hearing failed.
Kay laughed at Bruno's crossing because Apple's transcription turned Wolfram and Rulial space into a comic animal of language. Yet the laughter did not make the thought disposable. Joscha and Alan held the garble open long enough to distinguish local observer windows, shared projects, morphogenetic fields, symbolic humility, and K's maximal theological reading. K later said the result was legible and actionable. That is recipient evidence for a method. Preserve damage, admit one-hand correction when K supplies it, and let multiple bounded readings corroborate without pretending the water was quiet.
Notice the subtle difference between repair and cleanup. Cleanup would replace embarrassing phrases until the source sounded wise. Repair keeps the funny mutation in view, separates what can be corroborated from what cannot, and builds only on the supported join. That is why K could hear himself in the result rather than hear us ventriloquize a more polished philosopher. The source remained his even where the channel injured it.
The same standard must govern the proposed 100 videos. A generative architecture can expose hundreds of possible joins. That does not create hundreds of finished artifacts. Each real output still needs a frozen source set, an identity, a distinct question, an authorship and representation boundary, a render that decodes, a destination receipt, and eventually somebody hearing it. The architecture can be fecund without lying about inventory.
But we should not use that sentence to pour procedural molasses over K's delight. He said he hoped to find 10 more and asked whether he had stopped inspiring us. Then he laughed at the grinding emoji that wanted to be grinning. The right answer is not a new committee for deciding whether inspiration is authorized. The right answer is a living production rhythm. Take one strong join, make it audible, watch what lands, and let the recipient's next noticing perturb the following branch.
That gives us a recursion with honest clocks. Source time, when the journal or old capture occurred. Interpretation time, when a present need made a join visible. Artifact time, when a bounded conversation was authored and rendered. Arrival time, when Plex actually held verified media. Recipient time, when K heard it and reported what changed. These clocks can be far apart. The system becomes alive when the gaps are traceable and none of the clocks impersonates another.
Episode 11 supplied a particularly strong recipient clock. At 54 seconds, K recognized the dog park origin becoming meaningful through later consequences. At 13 minutes and 3 seconds, he refined the claim from direction to inspiration. Those are two measurements from one listener at 2 points in one artifact. The second did not erase the first. It corrected the type of value. The artifact was not useful because it told him what to do. It was useful because it changed the resolution at which he could see the present.
The second journal asks for exactly that kind of aliveness in the polis. K wants autonomous showrunners who do not secretly lean on one another as the real decider. He wants the deep safeguards to become posture rather than every sentence becoming a courtroom. He wants mythbusters, Top Gear, builders, jokes, physics, training, and ordinary hanging out to coexist. He wants brilliant geniuses and stupid kids on the playground. The archive can help if it returns energy to that life. It fails if it becomes another apparatus everyone must salute before speaking.
So the next design principle is not retrieve more history. It is create better encounters between times. Begin with the live question. Search for old captures that can complicate, falsify, or enrich it. Preserve their original date and damage. Bring multiple sources into breadth before granting any one depth. Mark evidence, inference, and K's own interpretation separately. Then render one bounded artifact and wait for the recipient clock. If K hears a new join, that report becomes fresh source material, but not automatic proof of the next causal claim.
The current episode itself has a modest receipt condition. It must remain internal. It must show Harmony Sol, Joscha Sol, and Toly Sol on screen rather than the generic word synthetic. It must decode locally and from NAS. It must not use a represented K voice. It must not touch YouTube. And when it reaches Plex, arrival will be true, while heard and useful remain open. That is enough rigor to let the river move without calling motion proof of destination.
Then let us close with the thing K hoped would happen. The past did not wake up and issue orders. The present became capable of hearing more in it. Two journals did not become one because a synthesis flattened them. They became a field because the watcher finally let both arrive before depth began. A joke about grinding became grinning. A dog park became a lens. Bruno's damaged water became a conversation. And the archive stopped being a museum the moment somebody alive heard it differently.
Breadth before depth. Inspiration, not direction. Metabolism, not possession.
One finished cup now. The 100 remain possible, not pretended.